Every relationship is like an investment account, and the question to ask is, did you withdraw or did you deposit?
Maya Angelou said this: people won't remember what you said or what you did, but how you made them feel.
Intention is not equal to impact.
The wheel of life is a great way to look back at the year. You draw a circle, and within it, draw the little pizza slices. And within each slice, you have something that really means a lot to you.
Two founders walk into with Satish, Manchikanti and Ajit, Sivaram. Execution is not a hustle. When you grow people, you grow everything. Two founders walk into
2025 is nearly over, and before you decide whether 2025 was a good year or a bad year or just a sort of 50-50, or as they say, a 6-7 kind of year, I'd love for us to spend some time today and figure out how do we actually make sense of the year we just lived. Because it's so easy to look at the year and just brand it. Just look at the key highlights and say, oh, this year sucked, or this year, and that's a very reductive way of looking at the year. There's also the recency bias. However, the last quarter was, the entire year was like that.
True.
Or we only look at these moments of the year, the highlight reels. But to actually go a level deeper is to really take a look at the year and choose your lenses through which you want to look at the year. Because for all of us, so much has happened. 12 months, 52 weeks, 365 days, there's a lot which has happened. And I think it's good to define what those lenses are, to really go from the default one, which is work, family, friends, and really design some of those lenses.
Yeah.
So what are some lenses we can look at when we look at sort of parts of life that really matter to us?
Yeah. I love what you shared as you were speaking. One thing that came to my mind was this rule called peak end rule. I don't know if you've heard of. Apparently, we have this thing where we judge a year or a meeting, even a meeting, by the peak or by the end, which is a recency bias. And as you said, it's very easy for us to brand the whole year depending on one peak. That could be a positive experience or a negative experience, and we could just like blanket saying 2025 was a bummer. But you really want to break down the year and say, hey, what all did I experience through the whole year? Again, as you said, our default way of doing it is work, life. If you really ask me, a really good place to start and a critical one to start with is, how did I evolve this year?
Nice.
You could have done 20 things or 100 things, but more important than doing is being, right, or becoming. So who have you become in this 2025? To take time and really reflect on that. And it's important to reflect because usually these shifts don't happen with in a grand way. They happen very so subtly. These shifts are in our beliefs, in our fears, in our approaches, in our habits, in the roles we take up. So take time and think about what's been my identity shift this year. How did I evolve? There's this beautiful story I came across this year by Sahil Bloom. It stayed with me. He talks about a man who was journeying through jungle and he came across a river that he needed to cross. So he built a boat to cross the river. And after crossing the river, he said, what if I come across another river? Let me carry the boat. So he carried the boat on his back. And the moral of the story is this, right? To have the agency and not live saying, what if I come across another river?
Yeah.
But to believe that if I come across another river, I'll build another boat. So maybe there's a boat that you're holding on to from 2025 that you need to shed and have the agency saying, whatever 2026 is going to be, I can build it. I can build that boat I need. So it's good to define who you were and who you're going to be in 2026.
Love that visual. I think a great tool I found very useful, and we use it quite a bit, is the wheel of life. You draw a circle, divide it up into pizza type squares, and define what are those parts of our life that really matter. How do I show up as a father? How do I show up as a husband? How do I show up as a colleague? How do I show up for the relationships that matter? How do I show up with my finance? And to really think through those lenses of life and think through how I evolved in those, like you said. To us, it's so good when you spend time and actually spend time defining what those different areas are.
Yeah.
A lot of times it can be, how have I evolved in my inner work this year? How many boats have I chosen to leave behind, which I've been carrying from 24, 26, or from childhood?
Yep.
When you do that, you also understand what areas progress this year, what areas may not have. And need not all sort of pizza slices don't need to be
Absolutely. Even, yeah.
every season will have its, hey, I really had to focus on this in this season. But that awareness that, hey, this is where this is. And then you're able to think of next year and say, okay, maybe this is what we should look at this year.
Yeah.
But that looking at that wheel of life has always been a huge eye-opener for us and a great starting point to reflect.
I think one important one in that wheel of life is relationships.
Ooh, nice.
And if you are able to reflect on what relationships did I invest in when I look at the year gone by, that's an important one, because you can really visualize each relationship as an investment account. And to ask yourself is, did I deposit in this relationship this year? Did I withdraw?
Yeah.
How much did I deposit and how much did I withdraw? There are three currencies that we use to withdraw or to deposit. Number one is love expressed. There are various ways you can express your love, and probably the easiest, the least expensive way is words. Expression of affirmation, for example. It's free and you can give it as much as you can.
Changing, yeah.
But we hardly do that, especially the ones we really love. So love expressed is the number one currency. The second is trust built. And trust is very simple. It's promises made and promises kept. So how many promises did I make? And how many promises did I keep? And the third one is time invested. Where you invest your time really says a lot about you. And you just need to look at your calendar. Who was it blocked for the most? And it really shows what relationships did you invest in. And the key thing to remember when you think about relationships is this: intention is not equal to impact. We all have good intentions about people that we love. You want to be the best father, best son, best husband, best wife. But I don't think that's enough. What impact did we make in those relationships is something to reflect on.
So time and then
Love expressed,
trust built. Love that, right? To me, just love expressed is something we talk a lot about at work also, right? How sometimes to the people that are closest to us, we fail to express love because we assume that everything they do for us, it's their duty or they're supposed to do it. For us, like for Dan Mom's 40th wedding anniversary, rather than calling 50 people and giving biryani and kebab, we just had my brother, his family, my family, Tanya, and the kids. And we sat down and we told mom and dad, hey, this is why we appreciate you and why we love you. And it was the most awkward to us.
I can imagine.
Yeah, because family usually never says these things. But I think I was so glad we did it that day. And I continue to do it over message and whenever I saw Dad. Because when he passed away a few years later, everything that I wanted to tell him and that I said at his funeral, I actually told him that night.
Wow.
So it was just love expressed that I didn't have. He knew everything that I had to tell him of how much he was appreciated and loved by us. When we look back, saying those this time is such a powerful thing. To me, one of the ways to look back at the year is, apart from all of these nice, I feel like the Wheel of Life is a good systematic way to do it, but one of the ways is to look back and find those stories and moments.
Yeah.
Because Maya Angelou said people won't remember what you say or
what you do.
Yeah, or do, but remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And so stories and moments of connection, of feeling, of victory, of failure, of sadness, of grief that really connect us. And I was reading somewhere, do 5 stories. So find a story of pride, a story of regret, a story of moment of unexpected joy, a moment of loss, a moment of bravado, when you felt brave, when you felt alive, when you felt buzz. And I feel like in those moments, there are there are threads to what makes us human. There are threads to what makes us alive, threads to what we enjoy. And for me, this year, that was just at 46, realizing how much I love sport and sport with people was such a revelation. When I reflected on this year and say, what are my moments of joy? One of those was that. And I feel like those are things that may not show up in a more structured reflection, but I thought that was an interesting way to look at the year gone by.
Yeah, that's brilliant. More pickleball this year.
Yes.
Yeah. I think everything you talked about, right? Whether you're deciding to tell your parents how you feel or picking up a sport, all these are choices and decisions we make. There's a whole pop psychology that talks about how we make about 33 to 35,000 decisions. Yeah. And obviously a lot of those could be very menial, right? Whether I want to have black coffee or
Getting out of bed.
Getting out of bed. But about 95% of those decisions we make subconsciously, not consciously. So only 5% we actually consciously decide saying, hey, this is the decision I want to make. This is a choice I want to make. This is the direction you want to go in. In that 5 100% of decisions, there are about 3 or 5 that are life changing, that change the trajectory of how your kind of year panned out. And it's good to take a minute and think about what are those three or 5 decisions and how
the course. Love it. Yeah.
yeah, and how they panned out. When you do it, one thing to do is not to judge the decision by the outcome.
What do you mean by that?
Annie Duke talks about it, the author of Think in Bets. When you make a decision, you take the information you have and you make the decision.
Correct.
You can never predict the outcome of that. But at that point, you took the information you had and you made the best choice you could. And have that grace. We always judge the decision by outcome.
Yeah.
Because especially as a leader, you're going to always want to live in guilt saying, oh man, I made another bad decision. Just because the outcome was wrong. Because not every decision you make is going to come.
Yeah.
You are not going to come out with flying colors. But it's good to think about what are those 3 or 5 decisions I made that kind of had a huge impact. And what mental models did I use? And then what were they based on? Were they based on fear? Were they based on growth?
Yeah.
Right? So thinking through that really has. And would I use that mental model again?
Next year.
That's a big learning. That is what you take forward.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love it. So many different ways to frame and reflect on 2025. Look back at the year in almost a constructive way that builds us up rather than looking at it and going, man, the year really sucked. I think one thing I was thinking about that, how do you end that reflection? A good way to summarize all of this is to almost in some sense even just write a letter to 2025, to treat in, to say, hey, farewell to you and say thank you 2025 for teaching me this, for teaching me whatever we learned. And to also decide, hey, in 2025, I release this and I carry forward this. And a lot of what we said, whether it's the stories, whether it's the decisions, whether it's the relationships, it's a great moment to make those choices.
Yep.
I want to release these things. I want to let go of that boat. And this is what I want to carry forward. So wishing you a great time reflecting and all the best as you end this year and start a fresh one. All the best for 2026.